Jobsite Joshers is an internet cartoon created by the brilliant minds known as Connor and Thomas. It aired its first episode in August of 2020 and is still going strong today with a quality 7 episodes. But with any show, especially an animated one, there's lots of planning that has to go into making every episode. Plenty of little story beats. Even a show as simple on the surface as Jobsite Joshers still had tons of planning going into it. But planned or not, there are some mysteries regarding this show. These mysteries and some other miscellaneous thoughts have been documented in this iceberg image. Now, I'm sure you don't need an explanation on how an iceberg works, but if you're new here, I'll just give you one anyways. The more common knowledge is on the top, more lighthearted stuff, and the lower you go, the deeper, more mysterious, and sometimes darker it gets. Let's not waste any more time and let's take a deep dive right into this iceberg. Now, if you watch the very first episode, which is Core the Electrician, you'll see a little bit different looking characters here. Core is much fatter. He has ears and a nose, which he currently lacks. Tor is looking a little more hideous, and he seems to have some kind of ear canal looking thing. And currently in the show, they have pretty radically different designs. Core looks a lot more simplistic without the ears and nose, and Tor's looking a little less hideous than he used to at the very start. In the current show, Core has a rather high-pitched voice, which is kind of mumbly and not really very understandable, while Tor has a raspy, more country voice. Earlier on in the show, however, this was not the case. Their voices changed multiple times throughout the first episodes. Tor was...
Why are the gas pipe?
Tor had a weirdly whispery, predator-like, ominous voice earlier on, and it was kind of unsettling the way he spoke. It was later changed because the voice actor apparently didn't like doing it like that. Didn't think it embodied Tor well enough. Core, on the other hand, almost had his high-pitched voice established as early as the first episode. And while it was a mainstay by the second, it didn't stop this weirdly, completely different voice from booming out of him at the end of the first episode.
Sorry about your husband.
When I went back and watched this episode after seeing the newer ones, I was appalled by that. By the time the second episode was out for Jobsite Joshers, there was already a theme song for it. Now, the clips were extremely limited, and the singer wasn't really all that talented. But this was fixed later on in the show when there were more episodes to gather clips from, and there was a better singer who was available. This entry is referring to the quote-unquote wife of Tor, who was seen in the end of the very first episode mourning his death. The character was based on his girlfriend at the time, but they have since broken up. Now, the character design of Core is a rather simple and obvious one. He is a fat, really big dude who wears a shirt that's really small. The person who designed this character was Thomas himself, the co-creator of the show. Just making a quick little fun parody of his buddy Connor. Hogmaster is the boss of Core and Tor, but that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about are his eyes, or lack thereof. You could just chalk it up as him not having eyes because they're just black voids. But if you look more closely, you can see in instances of his pure rage. His eyes seem to expand, revealing an insect-like plethora of eyes. This is a very strange phenomenon that hasn't even been addressed by any characters. It's an extremely commonly known fact that Core and Tor tend to die at the end of every episode of the series. But how can this be? How can they possibly come back after every episode? Both Kor and Tor have been killed on camera multiple times, yet they're still here. Kor and Tor must have some kind of resurrection ability, or possibly they're in a universe which has a constant time warp, looping the same day over and over again. The anime dogfight Jobsite Joshers episode is unlike any other in the entire series. It has Tor blatantly speaking Japanese and other various references to anime, such as JoJo and more. It has been rumored around that there are some Jobsite Joshers official posters out in circulation somewhere. But there are even more sought-after items, such as the signed posters. They have the signatures of the theme song singer, Tron, the creators, Connor and Thomas, and the voice actor, Hogmaster. If you have one of these posters, consider yourself extremely lucky. The character design of Tor is a bit more convoluted than the original Kor one. Thomas is only somewhat hideous in the real world, but his character persona Tor is completely hideous. The explanation is simple. Connor and Thomas were in math class one day, and they were just chatting up a storm, and there their buddy was, Malachi, secretly sketching a picture of Thomas while they were talking. The end result was one of the most hideously disfigured characters ever designed by humankind. The image was so terribly, laughably bad that they just had to incorporate it in Jobsite Joshers. Legend has it that Connor himself was actually sent out into the hallway for laughing so hard. This is unconfirmed. In the first episode, it was apparently confirmed that Tor had a wife, yet in later episodes, such as Love on the Site, you see him flirting with another woman. What's the case for that? This theory on this iceberg states that Tor actually hooked up with Hogmaster's daughter in that episode. Soon after this episode, they got married, but later on down the line, his wife cheated on him with a black man. She ended up giving birth to a black daughter, which Tor didn't really notice or think too much about. Now let's cut to the first episode, which is theorized to be canonically later in the timeline than Love on the Site. You see the daughter here. Kor mistakenly refers to her as his wife. That could have just been a simple mistake. Kor's a bit of an idiot. This theory was developed because the fan base just certainly could not fathom Tor being a cheater on his wife. And this theory actually has some plausibility because of the next entry. In no later than the second episode of the series, titled Ladder Prank, Kor is found guilty of terrorism and serves time in prison. Yet, it is later confirmed in the episode Love on the Site that he has a Nobel Peace Prize. How can this be? How could Kor possibly have this while he has the terrorism charges on his record? The only plausible theory is that this episode takes place before Ladder Prank. This proves that episodes don't take place when they're released. There is a canonical timeline here that we don't know about, which makes the love child theory actually plausible. Zappy is a song by Tron. It is a fan song for Jobsite Joshers which explicitly references Kor, Tor, and Hogmaster in the lyrics. They later got Tron on to sing the theme song for Jobsite Joshers. There's absolutely next to nothing known about the beta theme song. It does exist. It's been confirmed by the creators, but it is just said to be a static image of Core and Tor. The lyrics are just as humorous as they are in the original, but they're swapped and off. The singer is so monotone and it's so echoey. It's just said to be very eerie. In the Season 1 finale episode, Hogmaster gets really mad and starts spouting threats about Core and Tor to the electrical inspector. The inspector calls the cops and Hogmaster is sent to a psychiatric ward. Season 1 cuts to credits the second he is abducted by the cop. We are assumed he is left at the psychiatric ward, and we've never seen Hogmaster in a situation like this. If it were Core and Tor, we wouldn't be worried. But it's Hogmaster. He's never shown to have any kind of plot immunity or resurrection. Hogmaster returned in the bank robbery episode completely unchanged. That proves that Hogmaster also has the resurrection factor such as Core and Tor. But that wasn't always the case. In a leaked Google Doc containing the original script for the McDonald's lunch episode, we see not only an unused character, but at the very end, we see a little hint at a future episode containing Core and Tor breaking Hogmaster out of the psychiatric ward, thus proving the scrapped Hogmaster story arc is true. This is the single biggest mystery in all of Jobsite Joshers. When the Season 1 credits played, it showed a credit known as McDonald's drive-thru worker, played by Kat. First of all, there was never even an episode in Season 1 that even mentioned McDonald's a single time, much less started. And second, when Season 2, Episode 1, The Lunch Break came out, which had McDonald's, the only characters with speaking roles are Core and Tor. There was no speaking roles for a McDonald's drive-thru worker, thus making this the biggest mystery of all of the Jobsite Joshers mysteries. Why was that in the Season 1 credits? Why was it not even in the actual episode? How did this happen? There is a non-animated live-action episode of Jobsite Joshers that exists. Apparently, it features Core and Tor coming in contact with an apparition of the electrical inspector from the electrical inspection episode. This complete and utter shattering of the usual formula makes me think that some third party was involved in the creation of this episode. At the very bottom of our iceberg, we have Hogmaster's origins. Connor and Thomas attended the Prosser Career Education Center for the Electrical Trade, where they met their teacher. His name will not be uttered here, but he was a rather legendary man. He was a rash, mumbling businessman of a teacher, only doing stuff out of his own pride and ego, helping those who already knew what they were doing in the program, and stomping on those who needed just a little bit of extra help. If you weren't one of his top students who already knew what you were doing, you meant nothing to him. Hogmaster is an unreasonably angry character with no redeeming traits. Guess who he shares that distinction with?
Jobsite Joshers are joshing around.
Hey guys, thanks for watching this Iceberg video. This is the creator here talking. It was a great time. We actually made the Iceberg image during the Jobsite Josher podcast we got going on. It doesn't really have any affiliation to do with this show. It's just kind of the cast hanging around talking, having a good time, playing some games, you know, having fun, doing whatever. You ought to join us sometime with twitch.tv/Boos. Subscribe to Fat Boy Genius. You can get some epic highlight reels, and go check out Macintough for some Jobsite Josher goodness. Have a great day.